bar.
That extra gear, the first 3 steps.
Huge strides in the performance.
That I might not be the player I am today.
All right, welcome to another episode of Behind the Gear. And today we are sitting with Jess Brady, who is a voice on our AM station here in London. And I've got a sweet spot for AM radio because I grew up, as most kids did, with the father driving to rinks and driving around and stuff. My dad used to always listen to AM radio. And every time I got in the car, I'm like, this is so brutal. Why are we listening to this? And I try to get my CD in or my tape or whatever we had back then. And now I'm listening to 980 or listen to AM radio all the time. If I'm in Toronto or if I'm anywhere, I'll listen to sports radio or I'll listen to AM. So I'm kind of turning into my dad, which is, I think, everyone's big fear when they're kids. And now you see that kind of transpiring as you get older.
Let me just say, welcome to the dark side.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We have cookies. It's good here.
Well, I first step is admitting it, and I can admit that I listen to AM radio. So I'm good with that. But we were chatting a little bit before just about kind of, how did you get into this whole thing? I guess going to school and stuff when you were younger, did you kind of always want to be on TV or radio? Because you've had a kind of your fingers in a lot of different things. We'll get into that. But was it something that you kind of were passionate about as a young kid or something you kind of grew into?
It's really funny, actually, because as soon as I basically got it into my head that, this is what I wanted to pursue, it was sort of like, well, of course you're going to do that. Like friends and family were like, well, yeah, that makes a lot of sense that you would, because as a kid, very chatty. Yep. If there was ever an opportunity to like get up and there's a mic somewhere, I'll just toddle on up
just
there. Just get up there. And my cousins would say to my parents, she's up at the mic again. You got to take her down from the stage. But so it was one of those things where as a kid, very interested in public speaking, loved engaging with people at school and in just different types of things that I would do. I was big into swimming lessons when I was a kid, first aid, was a lifeguard for a few years in my late teens into my 20s. And a lot of that is dealing with the public and talking to people. And so that's basically the biggest thing for me is it's broadcasting to me and news, especially, which is my wheelhouse. It's kind of a marriage of 2 great things. It's a bit performative because you're on air, you're talking to people and in TV stuff as well, but it's also public service in a way. So you get to engage a little bit of community building in that sort of way. But when I was younger, didn't think that this would be what I would do. For a while, I thought law, maybe when I was in high school, went into university, and in first year, that was kind of where my head was at. But then I thought, no, I don't know. I don't think so. I think that's not quite where I'm supposed to be. And it took me a little while. And then finally, my cousin who lives in Montreal, who I'm pretty close with, she says, well, what about broadcasting? You could do that. We were watching the news. And I thought, I could do that, couldn't I? Why not? So I was at that moment kind of put on a path of, okay, so how do I get some experience doing this, finding out if I actually like it? Rogers TV in London, and massively put me on track to getting into this career. So it's kind of funny. I always kind of think that a lot of times things happen for a reason. You make a choice, it leads you to an opportunity, that leads you to another choice, and so on and so forth. So in my time volunteering at Rogers, they said to me, hey, there's this episode of, you're going to laugh, Instant Beauty Pageant.
Oh, wow. Very nice. Sounds very good.
Yeah. So great. So great for this podcast on sports. No, but they were filming in London and they were looking for PAs, so production assistants. And I decided to go for it because you never know. It's a little bit of TV experience working behind the scenes. I met someone through that opportunity who was a student at Western. He said, hey, I do this program called Big Purple Couch. If you're interested in getting into broadcasting, come work with us and we'll hook you up. We've got a radio side of it, TV side of it. And from there, I worked with them for a year or so. And I used that as my demo to get into J school at Western.
Cool.
Yeah. And it was the only on-air experience that I had. These little tiny minute-long clips of called What's Up at Western. I basically looked at what was happening in the community, different events. So, like if there was a dance at the Polish Club or something happening on campus at Western, I put it into a little 2-minute package or whatever, and away we went. So
that's cool.
Yeah. So really, honestly and truly, it all comes back to Rogers here in London.
There you go.
And just giving me a shot and giving me a taste of what the career could be. So
that is really cool.
Yeah.
Now, did you do an undergrad at Western, or were you kind of okay? And then you went into J school after that.
Yeah.
And how long is J school, and what exactly is J school?
Yeah. So my undergrad was the standard 4 years. I did honors specialization in English, minor in political science. Then J school at Western was the master's in journalism. It's a bit different now. They've changed the program to incorporate more of a communications aspect as well. They're recognizing the nature of a changing economy and that you need to be versatile in your training. But when I went through it, it was just master's of journalism, 1 year program, wham, bam. And you're good.
It's great.
Yeah, it was amazing to have that chance. And of my 5 years in total at university, that was my favorite year.
Sure. Well, specialize in what you'd like too, which is always important, right?
In a smaller group. I think we had maybe at max 30 people. That whittled down by a couple within the first month. So I think maybe 25 kids in the program in total.
Yeah. And did you do a lot of hands-on stuff during that year? Would you get a lot of on-air time or working on your craft type thing?
Yes. And then also there was a lot of theoretical work as well. For Western, their focus a lot of the time was on more long form pieces when I was there. So they broke it down into 3 sections for the practical portion of it. So you could specialize in TV, print, or radio. But you did a rotation through all 3 of them. So you got a chance to gain some skills and some basics in each one. I specialized in radio. And then you also had your theoretical classes with real live journalists who were teaching within the program.
Cool.
With tons of experience who have kind of been through it all. And, they could tell you great war stories of, being at Queen's Park or being in a war zone even and reporting from overseas. So there was absolutely hands-on. We did TV docs, we did radio docs, we had a semester of radio news, which was a lot of fun. I wish that there had been a bit more of that because obviously that's where I landed and what I really enjoyed doing. But I really enjoyed the whole year and having that chance to get a little taste of everything and find out where you wanted to go from there. I know that in town at Fanshawe, their program for broadcasting is fantastic. Either their radio broadcasting where it's more for FM or AM when you're in the news section of it. I mean, the kids that are coming out of that program are so well prepared for newsroom realities. It's amazing. So they have fantastic journalism programs in this city. We're so lucky to have 2 of the best. So
that's cool.
It's really neat.
It's one of the things that I always try to tie back in with this program and with Behind the Gears. For any of the young players out there that are female, male, we're obviously centered around hockey. So I'm ignorant with that sport. It doesn't matter what the sport is, but any young player out there that isn't sure what they're going to do, and maybe hockey isn't going to be their lifelong thing, which is totally fine. But looking at different avenues that players can go down and say, you know what, I love calling a game. I'll call games on Saturdays at home in my living room. How would I get into something like this? And I had the opportunity to have someone that you work with, Mike Stubbs, on.
Yeah,
and Stubbs, he was great. And just, I mean, he was a pro, he's just such a pro, right?
Oh my God.
He's such a good dude, an awesome guy. But the one thing that's unique to his story and your story is, that volunteer time where nowadays a lot of these kids don't want to they want to get paid for everything. They think they're going to graduate university and get an $80,000, $100,000 a year job and sign me up, get my new car, get my house, right?
Yeah.
And it's not, that's not the reality. But
no,
for anybody who's done anything, that's done a good job with it and worked hard at it. I mean, when you look back and you kind of peel it back a little bit, you've spent probably a year or 2 just grinding it out for free, spending a lot of hours probably working at Rogers and doing these little bits at Western that didn't pay anything.
Yeah.
And, to kind of work on your craft and get better at it. And I think that's an important message in itself for any industry that anybody's decided to get into, but especially for young kids that want to get better at something. Yeah. Let's say it is broadcasting, is just putting in that time to get to know people, obviously. And I'm sure for you, it's a lot of, in your industry, it's a lot of connections, right? If you ever lost your job here for whatever reason, I mean, you could call other people that in the industry and probably pick up somewhere else.
Fingers crossed.
Do something else. Yeah. Well, that's something too that I wanted to talk about because over the years, since you graduated our university and got your master's, how much has the radio industry changed and the TV industry changed with streaming now and Netflix and podcasts and all this different stuff that's going on is kind of pulling viewers in different directions now and taking away from that AM clientele or that AM customer, that FM listener, you know what I mean? So how have you seen that change over the last bunch of years?
Oof, good question. And there have been a lot of changes. I think previously, when I first graduated, it was a bit of a dicey time getting into the industry. And I think we all kind of looked around our classmates and we thought, okay, here we go. We'll see how we do. And I I had extremely talented people in my class, and they're all doing great now, no matter where they've landed and what they're doing. But I think one thing that I've really noticed is that you basically, triple threat, that term, you got to be like a quadruple or like sextuplet threat or something like that, because to have as many skills, as many tools in your tool belt and your toolbox as possible, that's your ticket. Knowing how to do a little bit of everything and having that drive to learn and say, you know what, I may not know how to do that really well right now, but give me some time, I will. I'll learn how to do it. But yeah, just having a broad-based knowledge and being aware of what's going on in the industry. And I feel like when I first started reporting, it would be enough to go out with your chunky Marantz recorder and get the sound bites from whoever you're talking to. There wasn't really a massive focus on, say, an interactive aspect yet. But now when our reporters go out, Andrew Graham and Sawyer Bogdan, they're out on scene. They're getting audio on our iRigs and connecting it, sending it back to the station for me to use and clip and put into my newscasts almost immediately. They're also taking pictures for Instagram. They're doing videos for Twitter and answering all sorts of questions from people who might be interacting with them. When I was reporting still and doing court cases, I was live tweeting from the courtroom everything that was happening. So when we had, the trial of Joe Fontana, former mayor, that was my life. I sat there on my BlackBerry and fastest fingers in Southwestern Ontario at one point. But yeah, like that's the nature of it. You're always adapting. You are looking for the next thing that is going to connect you with your audience. And that I think is much, much different now than it used to be. And it used to be sort of, well, here we are, come to us. We're the news source or whatever. But now we need to work better and smarter to engage with people. And that's what we should be doing. We need to be serving people better. Yeah.
And I think being an old bugger and an AM guy that listens to AM, it's funny because there's not a lot of options. Like when you're just trying to find out the news, the thing I like about AM radio is that you can, in a 50-minute clip, you can find out the weather, the traffic, the hot stories, and you kind of, I've got stuff to talk about at the water cooler, and I know what the weather's gonna be like when I leave.
Exactly.
But even in that, I mean, I've moved from one radio station to another and back and forth just because of the personalities on there, the way that the news and all that stuff is delivered, obviously. So to your point, like anything, you've got to be able to market, or you got to be able to relate to your clients or your people, that your listeners, and you want them to stick around, but you got to kind of keep up with the ages, right?
For sure.
And I think that's really, really important. And obviously that whole industry's evolved so much.
Yeah. So
you see some of these gentlemen that are 40, 50, or these women that are 40, 50, they've had to evolve into Twitter and Instagram, which they, I didn't know hardly anything about it. So, and I'm young.
You are, yes.
Yeah. In one sentence, I could say old and young. It's fine, depending on how I'm using it. But no, I think it is important though to be able to obviously evolve and then kind of take those next steps to be able to hit those listeners.
And I think that's a really transferable skill, being adaptable, and no matter what industry you're in or segment of life. So you've got coaching skills for people in sports or players. Like you're always looking for that next drill, that next skill that's going to help you to perform better on the ice. Because if you stay stagnant, well, you're not, I mean, if you look at like training methods, even between say when Gretzky was playing and now, it's miles difference, right? Like it's a world of difference. So I think that's really, if you can tap into that young when you're in your training, no matter what you're training for, it'll take you far. Being able to look ahead and say, where is that trend going to take us maybe? And my Twitter account, I hit 10 years on it this year, which is strange because they made us in my J school program in one of the classes, which was, I forget what it was exactly called. Sorry, Wayne McPhail, he was the teacher. But it was all about looking ahead at trends. And that was one of the things he got us to do. He's like, sign up for Twitter in this class right now if you don't already have an account. So away I went. Signed up for it. And it's one of my favorite methods of social media. Like it's like Instagram first and then Twitter next after that. Yeah. Because it's very interactive and you get a whole different segment of the population sharing things that are quirky, things you never would have thought about, which is very much like podcasts even, right? There's a whole universe of people out there who are thinking about different things and things you've never thought about before. And it's all right there and you can access it.
Now, for someone like me who's not savvy on Instagram and Twitter, I'm on them. I do a little bit here and there, but not savvy. What would you say the biggest difference between Instagram and Twitter are? Like, let's say for someone like yourself. So why would you check Instagram? Why would you use Twitter? And maybe for a young athlete, why would Twitter be something that would be kind of important for certain things? And why would Instagram be important for other things?
That's interesting. I'll say, first of all, that both are very much curated views of someone's life. And
Sure.
like, that's probably a good thing to point out about any type of social media. Instagram, literally snapshots of your life and neat things that you encounter. For me, Twitter is mostly about interacting with people or funny things that you might not be able to really express over Instagram. You can show a cool picture of a sunset or a neat picture of a dog. But on Twitter, you could give a running commentary of, so I went down the street and I saw this thing and I turned a corner and there it was. It was a cute puppy. And like, you can give more of a story, tell it.
Sure.
It's a different type of story with it. I guess it's sort of like the difference between TV and radio. You go to each for a different purpose, to see things, TV, Instagram, and then radio to hear or to read it and see what that experience was like. And you can narrate it yourself in a way for that purpose.
It all makes total sense. One thing I've noticed with Twitter is you can get up to the minute details on anything that you want, right? Whether it's a hockey game or the local news that's going on or a tornado in New Zealand, like you can find out, to the minute basically what is going on because somebody's tweeting about it. There's information coming out. Whereas Instagram, it's harder to get that instant feedback loop on exactly. And then there's a lot of conversations that spur out of that as well, right? Now you have interactions with other people and comments and which can get nasty, can get a little bit maybe on, that's where you get a lot of this.
The trolls.
Right. You get a lot of, you get a lot of that as well. Right. Not to say that Instagram doesn't as well. It does for sure. But I find what I notice with Twitter is just that if I'm looking up the score of a hockey game or seeing quick clips on who scored, Twitter's probably the easiest and quickest way to get those feeds. Right.
Yeah. And Twitter for news has been just amazing. Like mentioning before about reporting from the court and like live tweeting everything that's happening. So someone at home knows exactly what the judge in that case has said about that argument from the Crown or whatever. It really is a way to connect you no matter where you are to any corner of the world. Like I follow people all over the world on Twitter. A guy that I talked to, like, I don't know, 7 years ago for a story in New Zealand, speaking of New Zealand. And so like we still follow each other on Twitter. Like we don't interact all that much every once in a while, but it's just a way of building a network of people. And it's amazing to see how it connects everybody. But you do have to be careful. It's the trolls, don't let them get you down sort of a thing. And know yourself and know ways to limit your interaction with those individuals. The block feature is really great for some people.
Sure.
And it depends too on like what you're there for, right? So, some people who like to give hot takes and dish it out and have, opinions on things, you're going to have more interactions with people that you don't necessarily agree with and don't agree with you than say me, who predominantly tweets about news things and say puppies and goats. So
now, have you ever had any hard trolls come at you at all? Have you ever had any kind of any good Twitter wars?
Twitter war, I don't know if I would classify it as maybe like a skirmish.
Okay.
I try to engage, especially when it's a misunderstanding that's easily fixed. Because often it's like in any interaction, right? Misunderstandings between people in person, it's often, fingers crossed, easily correctable, right? So it just takes a minute for everyone to step back and think, okay, this is not what I assumed it was, right? So I have had, there was one just the other day on our Twitter account. I tweeted out very just bland, just basic information. There had been a minor crash in a section of the city. And someone wrote back and said, minor, if you think minor is a pedestrian being hit in a crosswalk, It's like, okay, well, I can understand why you might think that. So I wrote back to them and I was like, hey, and I just explained it. Like, this came from an automated feed. This was the classification from police. This is why we've said it that way. Often a call can be cleared at a different level of severity than when it first came in. So, but I'll check it out. So I called the police and they said, actually, in that case, the pedestrian was charged with failing to use a crosswalk.
Okay.
Yeah. So like I wrote back to them and said, by the way, here's the update. Not to say that they weren't right to question the terminology, but it's all about tone, right?
Yeah.
So I find that if you give people a little leeway and try and engage with them honestly in a non-confrontational manner, it goes a long way. And I think that kind of goes with in-person interactions as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think sometimes it gets lost in words, right? You don't know exactly where they're, and I think a lot of people just knee-jerk stuff.
Oh yeah.
They read one comment, they don't research it, they don't look behind it, they just right away react to the comments.
They rarely read the articles.
Right.
It's just headlines that they're reacting to.
Which is crazy. And then that starts a complete, What are your thoughts on Donald Trump?
Oh,
No,
oh my God. That is,
No,
it's
talk about
a
it.
Twilight Zone.
yes, talk about a guy who just does not mind throwing stuff out there.
It's it's mind boggling and a bit flabbergasting. Like I'm not often at a loss for words, but I just sit there sometimes and I'll see it. Like I don't follow his account on Twitter because I can't. But I follow the White House account, and even that is like retweeting him. So it seeps in. And obviously the stories that we have in our newscast every day that I put in there because we have to inform people about what's happening.
Yeah.
But it is a Twilight Zone in terms of how he behaves and how it's acceptable that this continues on. So, obviously as a person in the news, you try and maintain impartiality, but I feel like in Canada, it's pretty much accepted that this is out of the norm, this behavior.
For sure. I think, the one thing that and I'm not a political guy at all, but the one thing I was excited about with a guy like Donald Trump getting elected, no matter what country it was, it happened to be the United States, is it kind of flipped politics on its head a little bit. Like
Absolutely.
He totally was outside the box, outside what you'd think, and has not stopped acting the way he did 5 years ago, 7 years ago, right? He's still doing the same things. Now it's making a lot of people irate.
Yeah.
It'll be very interesting to see what happens with this impeachment and other things going forward. But at the same time, I think it might have changed politics a little bit, the way, from the way it was before to maybe a little bit more new age and, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think he's definitely a different cat and has a way different way of going about being a professional than most people, but it's definitely humorous and it gets people talking and it probably gets a lot of people very irate.
Oh yeah. I think the biggest concern for me with all of it, well, I'll step back from that. I won't say the concern first. I'll say that your point about flipping things on its head, the system on its head, absolutely. And I feel like he represents a large portion of the population who is disenfranchised, and they feel like they don't have a voice, that the system doesn't work for them. And so he is a symptom of that, and people finally being fed up. And he was able to tap into that. Ironically, the billionaire that taps into, the middle class population who they have obviously justified concerns about how the system is run. Unfortunately, I don't think that they've been well served by his rhetoric and what he's done. And we won't get into all of that because that's, people have arguments for and against, and we won't get there. But I worry about the change in reality and what is a fact. And this whole idea of quote unquote alternative facts, that is what I am concerned about, because you can say the sky is blue and he says, nah, it's red, and people will believe him. And that is the problem. That's where I get worried. If you want political change, we need it in Canada too with our electoral system. They need it in the States. But let's do that. Let's accomplish it. But let's not go to a length where we can no longer agree on basic facts. That's where I get really concerned.
For sure. No, I totally agree with you. Now, what do you think of, I know he went through a long period, especially right after the elections, of like fake news and all this kind of stuff. Right now, to his point, there is some fake news. There is
absolutely.
Especially like I get an opportunity to go down to the States twice a month, and it is insane. They will have 24 hours a day, on TV on basically just Trump. Like it's insane. And you go to one channel, it's pro; one channel, it's against, and it's crazy. And how do you know? I'm pretty level-headed. I'm pretty unbiased. How do I know what to believe?
Yeah.
Like they're talking about the same topics, but one is talking about it totally different way than the other channel is, right?
Yeah.
So I think for everybody, it's why not just try to, like, if we're all trying to make the world better, the country better, our country, Canada better, then let's just be honest about it. Let's just work together, be honest about it. And even in Canada, you see that both parties completely slandering each other.
Yeah.
And why not just meet in the middle and try to work things out? And you know what I mean? I don't want to get too political on it, but it drives me crazy because
for sure.
we tell our kids to act one way, and then you turn the channel on and you see two grown adults yelling at each other in the House of Commons. Like, what's going on here?
There's a lack of civility. And I wonder if we've reached like a tipping point where now it's like, okay, we've gotten as terrible as it can be. Now we're going to reverse and come back. And there will be like a bit of a reset and try to do better with it. I feel like there was a lot of hope with not this most recent federal election, but the one before in 2015, it was like sunny ways, right? Everyone was very hopeful that there would be a change in how things were done. I would imagine the last 4 years are pretty disappointing for people who felt that way, and because it is the reality a little bit. This is the nature of the beast of politics. We can't always be nice with each other, but I do hope that this is a moment where we can take stock and reset. because we can't keep going the way that it's going. And you're absolutely right. It's just really alienating for people because they tune out. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear the spats back and forth. They just want the truth. And so we as the media do have a massive responsibility to do better, to make sure people are getting the proper information, the stuff that's right. They come to us because we're a trusted source, or we should be in an ideal world. And so we have an obligation to make sure that people have access to that. And we try very hard to do that. I know in my newsroom, it's very upsetting when people call in and they're irate, to use your word from earlier. They call us fake news or what have you. And I think it's also really easy for people to, like talking about trolls, name call and throw stones and stuff like that when they don't know who's on the other side. But if they knew the conversations that we have in our newsroom, our commitment to getting the right information, they wouldn't say those things. It's tough, when you work in the public or anywhere, right? If anybody comes up to you in customer service at a store and they blast you for a problem with an order or a purchase, it's like, it's not your fault. You're just the person in front, right?
Yeah,
that's taking the abuse, if you will. But yeah, I think that people deserve and should expect quality information in broadcasting and news in general. And I think that the quality of that in Canada is really good, but always we need to strive to improve.
Yeah, no, definitely. Now, as far as the people calling in, the people tweeting in or emailing in, would you say it's a lot of the same people? Like a lot of the same,
like mad people, or like people with comments?
With comments and with like negativity or calling you guys out on fake news or whatever that is. Is it a lot of the same offenders that are calling in, that are emailing in, that are?
It's a good question. I feel like, let's see. I think our talk show host, Craig Needles, gets more of the same people calling all the time, especially the negative ones. Yeah. I would say that for people in the general public who are calling into the newsroom to say complain about a news story or whatever, I feel like they're more one-offs. I don't think I've had the same person twice in my nearly 9 years of working with 980. I don't think so, but I mean, it just depends. I feel like once people get to the point where they're calling us, they are very upset about it. I feel like most people kind of let things go for a while if there's something bugging them. But then, they come out for it. I think sometimes it depends on the topic too. Politics, US politics has been obviously really a bit of a lightning rod in the last little while. The disputes with labor and education right now, the teachers negotiations, that has been, we've had a lot of feedback, and that's that's good. Yeah. Like, we're happy to hear from people if they have a concern, because if we've messed up, we want to know about it, right? But it's never like we're not out to get anybody. Like, we are impartial in this. Like, our news department, our talk shows, they might have their opinions. They might have roundtables that have members of the community who come on and share their thoughts. But for news purposes, we're down the line. Like, we're giving both sides of this and trying to move forward and parse things as best we can for people to understand it. But yeah, like, we get some people who are more concerned than others. Yeah. I would say mostly on the talk shows. So much for news, not so much. We get the one-offs here and there, but they're not usually consistent.
I think, because what I'm kind of getting at is, I think a lot of times the noise and negative criticism comes from a small percentage of the overall listeners or the overall people that are engaging, right? And I think that's one thing that we got to keep in mind, that they have a really strong voice, and they'll push and push and push and push. And it seems like there's a lot of people on the same page as these people that are causing conflict, when really it's not. There's a small group of them that really make a big impact, or a real loud voice. And that's unfortunate, because you see it even in minor sports. Like, I'll take hockey, for example, but there's forums out there that parents go on and basically bash these 12, 13-year-old kids. But you have parents going back and forth on this stuff online, and it's ridiculous. And these poor kids are kind of caught in the middle. Some of them don't look at it. Some of them do, which is unfortunate. But my thing is, you got grown parents that are here bashing other parents, or bashing other coaches, or bashing at young kids.
Like high school.
It's ridiculous, right? And that's all part of this whole social media culture that we have. And, and you said something earlier about how we reached a bit of a tipping point. I think everything goes very, very, very extreme at one point, and then hopefully kind of pulls back a little bit and levels off, and you see it with the Me Too movement, which I think was a good thing. It kind of brought a lot of things to light. You're seeing it right now in coaching and in the NHL. It's bringing a lot of things to light. I think it'll probably get worse before it gets better, where more players will come out and say different things, and probably, end up getting some coaches in some hot water. But I think it'll end up peeling back a little bit, and hopefully it changes the attitudes and the approach of coaches coming in now. And these younger coaches are going to get opportunities in the NHL because of what's going on, that they'll be able to do it the right way or do it with a little bit more tact than what was done maybe in previous years, you know?
I agree 1,000,000%. I think that it often, like it's, what is that old saying? It's darkest before the dawn, right? So whenever you have a movement like those that you've mentioned, even like mental health in sports, especially, right? Like you've got Michael Landsberg, who was just recently in Lucan talking about an event that was focused on mental health in sports and hockey specifically, I think. But yeah, it's about raising awareness, letting people know that, okay, this behavior, whatever it is, what we're focusing on, we need to address it no matter what it is, and let people know they're not alone and move forward from there. And I think that's the most important thing, is to find solutions where we can work towards better understanding of everyone, no matter what it is, right? And hold people to account who need to be held to account. Yeah. And I think that's, you know, without getting too much into cancel culture, where one infraction can, you know, obviously devastate a person and their reputation, and it kind of builds. So again, hold people to account where they should be. There should be consequences for behavior that's not acceptable and that is wrong. But also let's try and move forward too, if we can, you know, the best we can. There are tons of exceptions in different circumstances for all of what I've said, but that's my general feeling on it is that.
I totally agree, because everyone's going to mess up, right? Everyone's going to have mistakes. Some are more severe than others, but at the end of the day, I think we've all done stupid things. We've all got in trouble for, you know, things that, and you know, it's different now because we always talk about this, especially in the hockey world, you know, 10, 15 years ago, we didn't have cell phones very much. No one was taking videos of everything. No one was posting everything on social media. Yeah. And now, I mean, you make one blunder and that's caught on camera. It's 10 times worse than what it was if it wasn't. And you can explain yourself, or now you're, you know, trying to get behind it instead of getting out in front of it a lot of times. So I think it's a different way, right? And you got to really, really watch what you say and how you act and what you do, because you always got to think there's going to be something on you. There's going to be a camera on you, or someone's going to see this and post it. Or
it's so true. Like even having discussions in public, like if I'm talking with someone, I'm very cognizant of who's around me, who could be in earshot of whatever we're talking about. It could be something totally just non-controversial at all, but you're always aware. You're always careful. And it's sort of like, I've heard that a lot of teams now, even in the OHL, they'll do social media training and media training with their kids. And I think that's really smart. It's unfortunate that that's something that they have to think about, but at the same time, it is trying to head off a problem before it becomes one, essentially. Yeah. And I think it's smart just to let people know, okay, this is the playing field. You've got rules for on ice, and now you've got rules also for when you're on your phones on the bus, you know?
Well, and every team, I know at the NHL level, they do it. And I've seen it. I've been in on those meetings, the AHL, and then all the way down to the OHL, junior teams do it too, because they want social media. They want you to engage with fans. They want you to post things, but you got to be tactful on how you do it. And
for sure.
Because now the biggest thing with young athletes is, even minor hockey players that are maybe have a chance to get drafted to the OHL or go on to play a little bit, they're building up their own brand. Yeah. And you see with guys like Paul Bissonnette, like Biznasty, like he's built up a complete brand and is now got, you know, the podcast and a business basically making money because of the brand that he had originally, that he started when he was playing. And I mean, if you look at his kind of track record, he got, you know, he had to cancel his Twitter account at one point because he said something stupid. But he's, you know, he's lived and learned and obviously done very, very well. So I think for the young kids, you can post some cool stuff, some fun stuff, interact with fans and people and other hockey players and kind of build up your reputation and build up who you are, and who knows where that parlays into or what that parlays into. But it's important. And I think it is good that they do get that kind of service where they're getting talked to about social media, because a lot of kids treat it like it's you and I talking on the street, and you'll see F-bombs in there and you'll see, you know, a bottle of beer or a joint or something like that. And those are things that tarnish young kids' reputations, unfortunately. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it is an unfortunate reality of how that kind of plays out, you know? So it's good that they are taking it seriously, because, you know, don't give them the opportunity to like have a problem, you know, like let's just cut it off right before it can happen, and just be very careful. And, you know, it's better in all ways. And it's saving yourself a lot of hassle. It's saving the teams a lot of hassle, and you can just move forward and be smart about things.
And I think too, as parents, and my kids are young, they're not on social media at all, but even, I mean, for instance, my kids will maybe be on YouTube once in a while, and they'll go down rabbit holes sometimes if they're watching a hockey clip. Next thing you know, they're looking at somebody getting arrested on a cop video.
Like, how'd you get there?
So I think as parents, we got to also be conscious, especially as our kids get to 13, 14, 15, 16, on what's on their phone, what they're doing, knowing their passwords. Yeah, you can have Twitter and you can have Instagram, but I need your passwords and I'm going to be checking it.
Yeah.
Because I think we need to be involved in that process as well and educating our kids on what's okay and what's not okay and how they're dealing with this stuff. Because it can get out of hand easily, and just because it's so easy. It's so easy to post stuff. It's so easy to say the wrong thing or tweet the wrong thing. So I think it is important to monitor it and obviously be on top of it, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like it's, we've reached that, I don't want to say saturation point, because I feel like in any generation, there's always going to be something new that the parents don't know about, you know, and like, that's just the nature of evolution in terms of social media and things like that. But I think that we've got a lot of really savvy parents out there now, which is great. And, you know, hopefully it saves people from heartache in whatever respect, you know, that they can keep their kids on a good path, a positive path, instead of getting into stuff that's problematic or negative. So,
no, definitely. Now, being kind of, you're on top of the news as far as, you know, on weekly to daily. No, but I mean, you know, any of the stories that come in that are kind of hot topics in London and surrounding area, you're on top of it. Where do you see things trending as far as what are some of the big things that are more prevalent now, or that you deal with more on a daily basis or weekly basis in the news and we maybe didn't really deal with much before? Like, for instance, if there was a kidnapping when I was a kid, we didn't know about it. Right. Like, you know, if it happened in Toronto and I was living in Sudbury, we didn't know about that. Right. Yeah. Whereas now if there's a kidnapping in BC, the entire country knows about it in a second. You get an alert on your phone and everyone's freaking out because kids are getting snatched everywhere, which is not the case. But with social media and with internet and all this stuff, I mean, it is more nerve-wracking, I think, for just society in general, but let alone parents or whatever, depending on what's going on. Right. But
for sure.
Are there things that kind of pop up more and more that you see kind of more relevant in the news now than it was? You know, kind of back in the day?
I think that situations like that, especially, that was kind of where my mind went first, was different crime stories, because we do have a lot more access to them, and different police departments and law enforcement agencies from a local level all the way up to RCMP, FBI in the States, like they're all connected on social media now, and they can push out information that they want and need people to know. So it is much more accessible in general. Information about anything is much more accessible. You have, you know, like poor doctors, when they must get this a lot. Well, Google says, and WebMD, it's similar in that regard. You have people who are, you know, searching out their own information, which is good, like good to be informed and to find things on your own. My concern is sometimes just not trusting the right sources, and only looking at one type of news. So you get very, what's the word I'm looking for? Divided. It's not quite the one I'm looking for. It's like right there. It'll come to me later, and I'm like, no. But tribalism. There you go. Okay. So it's very much like, if you like, say in the States, if you're a Republican, you're going to go more so to Fox. If you're a Democrat, you're probably going to skew to MSNBC and CNN more so, right? So I worry about that compartmentalization and tribalism, where you're only looking at one type of source and not looking at a broad spectrum to be well-rounded and informed. Ease of access like that, like you're saying. I think that just a lot of being tapped in, just way more knowledgeable about a broad range of topics. I feel like sometimes people in the past might have only known about one or two things that were really their wheelhouse. Now I feel like people have a better understanding of a lot more things, which is interesting, you know? Yeah, I know, for sure. And like you said, there's way more ways to get that information, right? One thing I've started to do more in the last probably 4 or 5 years is, let's say, for instance, global warming, right? Which we all know is an issue. Oh yeah, I should have mentioned that. Right? Greta Thunberg. Yeah. But looking at both sides of that conversation as well, right? Because you'll have people that be like, oh, global warming's a hoax. Okay. All right, that's fine. Like, where are you getting your sources for this? And what kind of information are you reading? And maybe I go down that rabbit hole and I read into that and I'm like, okay, these are some valid points. And then let's look at the other side of that as well. And then you can come up with your own opinion of what you think of global warming, right? But I think a lot of people, just like you said, they're in this tribe and Earth is flat. So I agree that Earth is flat, and I'm sticking to it. Right. Like, no. Instead of looking at the other side and being like, okay, well, there's some pretty valid points on this side too that make complete sense. And looking at more than just one source, because you're going to have people that are very opinionated on their point of view, and they're they can sway people because they're very convincing, and it makes it difficult for people to make up their own mind if they're not educated on it, for sure. For sure. Yeah. A lot of people, there was a bit, what was it, on Trevor Noah's show, about, not to bring it back to Trump again, but I thought it was kind of funny. He posted like a video of one of his correspondents who went out to a Trump rally, And he's like, so what do you think of this impeachment? And so they all give their feelings on it, their 2 cents. I can't repeat most of what they said, which is fine.
Yeah.
But they were like, read the transcript of the call or whatever between Trump and Zelensky and Ukraine. And he's like, yeah, reading the transcript, the correspondent says, yeah, it's really important to read that to decide for yourself, right? And they go, yeah, absolutely. He says, have you read it? I said, well, no, but you should read it. It's important for everyone to read it. And I think almost every single person that he talked to in that clip had not read it for themselves.
For sure.
Yeah. So it's very much to your point of seek out many sources and don't just take things for gospel. And I say that as a member of the media, hold us to account, take a look at the other reporting that's happening on an issue. Absolutely. Because sometimes we're only human, we miss things or, whatever happens. But it's on all of us to make sure that we are informed about an issue. And climate change is up there. That is polarizing right now. Yeah.
Yes, that is a very, very hot topic for
hot.
sure.
Huh, pun.
Yeah, there you go. and I don't think a lot of people know a lot about it. And I'll be the first to admit, like I'm not very well educated in climate change. I'm very aware of certain topics on it or certain issues with it. But, and I think, I think a lot of times too with society and me being part of that is, well, what can I do to help climate change? What's my part? You know what I mean? Like recycling. Yes. Like doing little things that you can hopefully, do your small part in it. But
for sure.
At the same time, I think a lot of times for people, it's like, well, it's
overwhelming.
Yes. It's like, man, that's a massive topic. And you're telling me if I recycle my jug of milk that I'm going to be really, doing a big part.
Going to help. This is going to help Greta in her quest to,
Right. It's so true though, right? So it is an overwhelming topic for sure. And I think a lot of people just get overwhelmed and kind of fed up with it.
That's a big theme right now, honestly, too. Like speaking of trends, like malaise or fatigue, like news fatigue. People are world weary right now. They are just tired of all of the doom and gloom. And I'm surprised there's not been an uptick in trips to the travel agent to be like, get me out of here, put me on a beach somewhere. Like
if you can't go to the beach because Mexico is bad.
Yeah,
Mexico's bad, and you can't go to.
Tough.
Right. Again, like and people go to Mexico, it's all fine. It's great. And then you have one story that comes out of a Canadian couple getting abducted and man,
I could tell you a sad story about avocados that I learned from a prof at Dalhousie, Sylvain Charlebois. I love him.
Nice.
His name is
French.
fantastic.
Yeah.
I love talking to him. He's also like super friendly and awesome. But he told me that the bulk of the avocados that we eat, the industry is tied to organized crime in Mexico and like in South America. And it's just like, are you kidding me?
Because avocados all of a sudden were like, there's a tough weather, I think, and they didn't cultivate as many as they thought they were going to get. So the price of avocado went up a bunch, right?
Super expensive.
I had no idea that it was tied into
because it was around that time. I was filling in for Mike Stubbs. So when he goes on vacation, they let me fill in for him, which is really fun. But it was around that time of the avocado spike in prices. And so we talked to Sylvain because he's a food researcher, I suppose. And he was talking about that. He's like, but did you know that this is what goes on, like mostly in Mexico, which is obviously North America. And then there are other South American countries that are dealing with their issues too, related to it. But it's all tied into organized crime. So the avocados that we put on our toast, us millennials, I for one don't do avocado toast. I would prefer it in guac. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But it's all interconnected. So you start to think about those little things you do in your life. It's like, how can we do anything right? Everything we do, it feels like it has a negative impact. And I think that really gets people down where they feel like they can't do anything to help. And it's just a doomsday scenario. And it's not. We have to try really hard not to get down on ourselves in that way. But it's tough with so much instant access to information all the time. Yeah. It's like information overload.
But I think any avenue you take, you're going to have people on the other side that think that you're an idiot and you shouldn't be doing that, whether you eat meat or you're vegan or you like lactose or you're lactose intolerant. Like there's always going to be, so at the end of the day, to your point, I think do what you think is right. Try to be a good person, be nice to your neighbor. And if you're healthy and taking care of yourself and you're enjoying life, like get up every day, have fun, just enjoy your life. Don't be an idiot, be nice to people.
That's right.
And, just live it. Right?
Pay attention and don't put your head in the sand.
Right.
But you can only do so much. So what you can do it well, essentially.
Yeah.
As basically everything that you've said, I agree with that 100%. Yeah.
One thing I want to touch on, you said this way earlier, but I think it's really important to bring back, especially with young kids and stuff. And anybody who's kind of getting older and kind of, I say older, like 13, 14, 15. And we all had aspirations of being a doctor, being a lawyer, being whatever, firefighter, police officer, doesn't really matter. But you said something earlier about being like a triple threat or a quadruple threat or and I think that is really, really important as far as you don't have to be an expert in all these things, but being more of a well-rounded, especially because when I was young, it was all about get a degree. Like I think I was the first person in my immediate family to go to university. And because back before that, you didn't really need it. I mean, college was fine and university maybe, but didn't really matter. And then became more prevalent. But now everyone's getting a university degree for the most part, or a college diploma, which is both great. But now you're coming out on an equal playing field with a piece of paper like a lot of other people have.
Absolutely.
How do you separate yourself, right? Are you able to, like you said, and I've had interns work for us that I've hired. And my line to them is, this business has a lot of holes in it. If you can learn how to plug a couple holes, you may get a job out of this. And sure enough, we had someone that worked for us for 5-6 years after their internship, just because they were helping us plug holes. They were really good at certain things, and they were a bit of a multi-threat. They had a lot of different areas that they could help us with.
Absolutely.
And, so you can almost create your own job if you have other resources and other skills. Right?
I agree with that. And that's fantastic advice that you've given them. And like, I'm not surprised that you would give excellent advice because you're a smart guy. But yeah, like that is very much the case. And I'll tell like a little story from J school again. When we were getting close to graduating, one of our profs said to us, this degree, this program that you're doing right now used to pretty much guarantee you your first entry level gig. And that's going back a long, long time, a lot of years, right? Because if you had your master's in journalism, applying for jobs like that when the industry was better,
for sure,
it was not as cutthroat as it became to be with cuts and layoffs and all that, and just cutting of budgets. But he said, and now maybe this degree will probably get you an interview. It will not guarantee you at all an actual job now. That's not what's going to happen. But you really need to step it up. This is a more competitive field. And I feel like, as you said, everyone's coming out with papers now, degrees, diplomas, whatever. It's on you. It's on those soft skills, I feel like, as a person to make a mark. Be genuine. Care about what you're going after. Learn as much as you can before you go into an interview or an internship situation. Be open to constructive criticism. Work your tail off, and don't be afraid to put in those hard, long hours, right?
Yeah.
I was going to say, show up early, stay late, but I'm terrible at being on time. So maybe stay late. I'm good at staying late, not showing up so much early. But yeah, just put in that effort, be interested in what you're doing. And the key is, if you're interested, you'll want to naturally learn more about it. But yeah, just take opportunities to learn. And if something interests you, just Google it, like find out how you learn more about it. Use that internet to your advantage, right?
Definitely.
And then find out how it could relate potentially.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, plug a couple holes, see what else is going on out there. What different aspects of your field are you interested in?
Yeah.
Talk to the people who have been doing it for a long time and get their sense of where things are and maybe where they see it going. So just, make the best of the resources you have. Be interested. Be curious. That's probably the best thing to do. Be curious about what you can do.
Yeah, no, and I think that's great. And I think the other thing too is, with social media and all this other stuff, I mean, there are resources out there. Like I did not know anything about podcasts, or I knew a lot about podcasting as far as listening. I knew how to put earbuds in my ear and hit play. No idea how to like set up a microphone, anything, right? So I Googled most of it. I had some really good people that I went and asked and helped me with a lot of stuff, but and I'm still not good at setting any of this stuff up.
Are you
at the end of the day,
I'd be doomed. This looks so slick.
You know how many times like I look at the video after, I'm like, oh, it's blurry. That's why I have two things set up for video.
See?
Backup mic. Yeah.
Preparation.
I'm learning as I go.
Yeah.
But going through that whole process of like trying to learn something else, and as you get older, for any young people out there, as you get older, it gets harder to learn and retain. And so I think as young people, like, building that knowledge of different things that you like, maybe like video, get into video a little bit, or you like taking pictures, or you like doing broadcasting. Well, get a mic and get a task cam that a couple $100, you'd have a cool setup that you could do a lot of different stuff with, And one other thing too that, and I don't know if you've seen this in your industry or not, but one thing I've seen in other industries is young people coming to job interviews with maybe not the paper credentials they need as far as a diploma or a degree, but a social media following, a bunch of experience on YouTube or on Instagram, and they have 400,000 followers that, so now all of a sudden you're going to a Pepsi or whatever and saying, listen, I can help you.
Yeah.
I can be a bit of an influence, but I also have knowledge in this and this and this, and almost, creating their own, not position, but their own validity for this position, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that's a new thing that we're not used to in my generation anyway, of what, you have 400,000 followers. I don't care. But really that has a massive influence on product, on a lot of different things. So for young kids out there now, because you see young kids that have thousands of followers just following them, doing tricks with their hockey stick or looking at them working out or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a whole other aspect of building up that resume, right? That is so new. And this is all social media stuff that old guys don't understand and old girls will not get. But at the same time, for these young kids, it's something else to kind of pad that resume a little bit and help out.
It could be one of those things that, tips you over the edge in terms of them choosing you versus someone else, right? I think that it's absolutely the case, because if you show them that you are savvy and capable with trends that are either at play right now or will be, because a lot of these bigger companies have people keeping an eye on what's coming next, right? And if they notice someone, kind of like not headhunt them because maybe they've already applied or whatever for the job, but if they recognize in them, hey, this is exactly what we want to be getting into, we have an interest in this, we should take them back for a second look. How are they on their other skills? Are they going to be a good fit otherwise? That's a big thing, I think, being able to market yourself in that way. Make sure you have the other basics too, but try and develop those things that are going to set you apart if you can.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that's a really, really important message for especially these young kids that are way more savvy than I am on any of this stuff.
More than me too.
They'll have a bit of a step up, because even now with young kids, one of the things is when you have kids is, my kids aren't going to watch TV. My kids are not going to play on an iPad, right? And I look at it like, when I was a kid, we had like a phone on the wall.
Yeah.
It had like the dial that went around, you know what I mean? Like old school stuff. So when I mimicked my parents, it'd be like a phone in my hand.
Yeah.
Where now when our kids mimic us, they're texting. It's just different, right? Yeah. It's not bad. It's just different. And I feel like our kids are going to be on iPads. Their cars are going to have an iPad screen. Like everything's going to be, or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So for them, I think they need to learn how to use an iPad. Now, do they need to spend 6 hours on an iPad? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But I think it is important for them to be up on technology a little bit. And, and I think that's going to be where they're going to be at. I don't think they're going to have laptops anymore in 5-10 years. It's going to be small little devices that are going to be super easy to pull out and use. And it's going to be way different than what we're using right now. So I think for young kids, man, the more that they can become savvy in that area and know what they're doing and know how to use all this product, then obviously the better they're going to be able to separate themselves from other people when they're going into those situations.
Because the last thing you want is to have them go out into working world or whatever and just be completely unprepared, right? And just be like, what am I doing? So that's why it's great that we have the institutions that we do, different schools, different training programs, whatever you want to do, that will do their best, if it's a good program, to make sure you are ready for whatever you are going to encounter in your chosen field. So it's important to be that well-rounded individual that can kind of walk many paths and be comfortable in a lot of different situations, or be okay with being uncomfortable while you're learning. And that's another thing. Don't get bogged down with being on your back foot a little bit. Don't worry about that. That just means that you have an opportunity to grow and learn and succeed, essentially.
For sure.
Yeah.
Oh, totally. Now for you, as far as your triple threat or your quadruple threat, but you've done radio, obviously you've been on TV, you've done the Christmas telethon, like a lot of different things that have, you cover for Mike Stubbs on his afternoon show and things. So you've been put in probably different situations that were a little bit uncomfortable. I'm sure the first time you had to run your own segment on a radio show is a little bit different than just
nerve-wracking.
Than doing the news or things like that, right? So when you were faced with those different situations and got put in those different situations, how did you kind of deal with it? Because I'm sure you're nervous. I'm sure you're maybe a little bit unprepared, and maybe not unprepared as far as knowing what you're going to talk about, but this is new territory. It's a little bit outside the box for what you were doing. But
absolutely,
how is all that to get through? Because you're not only just writing an essay or researching something, you're actually on live television, or you're on live radio, which, I mean, you can't have dead time. You can't stutter. You can't use a lot of uhs or, it's so, what was all that like?
I will say that it gets better with age, and that's only to be expected, right? Because if you've had nearly 10 years in the business and they throw you into something and say, hey, can you fill in last minute? Sure, I can do that. And you'll be able to to sound like you're okay no matter what. When you start out though, I will say that my first gig, my first boss, when I worked in Cornwall, Ontario, woo.
Nice.
It was anchoring early in the morning and like reporting from the desk. And I was not prepared. I was very upset with myself because I'm a bit of a perfectionist and I don't like to be bad at things. And that's not a great thing because sometimes it might limit you from trying to learn something else, right? Because you don't want to fail. But don't get comfortable with that because that means you can get better, right? But yeah, I remember bawling on the phone. It was my first time away from home because I went to school here in London. So I lived at home through that, didn't live in res. And I was on the phone with my mom and I was like, I can't do this. I don't know what I'm doing. And she's like, Jessica, they know you can't do this yet. Like they didn't hire you thinking you were, Lisa LaFlamme or whatever. Like they know you're new. It's going to be okay. Like, and that's the biggest thing. Give yourself room to learn, stay calm as much as you can. It's going to be okay. And then just be honest and just be genuine. That's the biggest thing, because if you can laugh at yourself a little bit, that goes a long way. Even now when I'm anchoring and I really goof up, like I'll laugh a little if it's really bad. You know, it is what it is and it happens. And I think people are much more forgiving than we think they are, generally speaking, with these sorts of things with broadcasting, because it kind of gives them an insight into when things go sideways,
Definitely,
right? They're like,
sure.
they're having a hard time today, you know, that sort of thing. And just try your best and try to be prepared. So if you're caught off guard at something, learn up on that, read up on it, ask some people about what to do next time. And that's just like you were talking about, having a backup mic, having a backup camera just in case.
Or 7. But
or 7. That's right. I mean, you should see my alarms on my phone, the number of alarms I set for the morning to go off to make sure I get up. But it's all about that. It's preparation and it's learning. So when you first start, it's not going to be great. Probably you will have moments of greatness. But to have consistent greatness takes a lot of experience and a lot of trial and error. I would just say learn as much as you can. I like to do research before I go into something that it's all on my shoulders. Be as prepped as possible if you're uncomfortable with a situation. So my first couple of shows when I filled in for Mike, I did a lot of even pre-recorded interviews. So I could do that ahead of time. I knew they were there. My intros into the segments were all live. I was still on air. And I would often write out almost verbatim what I was going to say. And so sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't. It depends on your personality. When I write something out verbatim, it's very conversational. So people I'd like to hope that they don't think it's written out and I'm reading from it. Some people, they can't do that. And it's much more natural for them to just be off the cuff and go. I have to do that a lot less when I'm hosting for Mike now. I don't do it actually anymore. I don't write out a script for myself. But yeah, it's just know what makes you tick and what makes you feel comfortable. So if you're heading into something, just do as much prep work as you can. Whether it's watching like game tape from a team or whatever that you're gonna play them next week. It's like, okay, let's watch and see what they're gonna do. So when they shift left, you know how to pivot. You know what to do. So
Oh, I think that's great advice. And I'm a bit of the opposite way. Like even over the last bunch of years, I've emceed weddings and things like that. And
so much
I've never written scripts on it. I just gone up and now that means I forget things and I don't hit everything I should probably hit or say the bride looks beautiful. But it's all to your point. It's knowing who you are and what you are and what you're good at. Like I'd have a hard time sometimes reading because I'd feel like I'd be too monotone and reading off the page. And then people would be like, this is so boring. Right. Yeah. And I feel like, to your point, even doing these podcasts, like you get more comfortable, you get more into the flow of things, you get to read off people. And I just enjoy, whether it's on the street or doing this or at the rink or whatever, it doesn't matter. Just having conversation with parents or coaches or kids, even, hey, how was your day today? Hey, what went on? And just kind of having a normal conversation. And I'm not saying there's not a lot out there. There's tons of conversation out there, but we are seeing less and less of it, and not in a bad way necessarily, but just a lot more people on their phones, a lot more people distracted, a lot more people in a hurry. So getting a chance to sit down and talk to somebody, I think is huge. And whether that's in the hallway or whatever, doesn't really matter. But going back to what you said, I think it is important for people to know what they are. And I think it is really important to get put in uncomfortable situations because they do suck. You get nervous. You're probably going to fail or you're going to mess up a little bit. But out of all those, I think it's important that you come out of it saying, okay, I did mess this up. How can I do this better? How can I make this right? How can I not do that again next time? You know?
And also you survived. Like it's like not the end of the world. That's one of my things that I say quite a lot. It's like, it's not the end of the world. Everything's going to be fine. Like we'll move forward from this and we learn and we do better. That's the point of it. Like, as long as you're moving forward, every step forward is still better than standing still or a step back, right?
For sure.
Don't care how slow you go, how slow it takes, or how long it takes you to learn something. Just keep trying, keep progressing. That's the most important thing.
Yeah. And now, what were your parents like when you moved away? Because I know, you're out of university, you've been home, your whole life. Because this happens to a lot of young kids. They move away to play hockey, or they move away to go to school and play their sport.
Yeah.
And it's tough, man. So what did you go through when you did move to Cornwall, which is a small city, like small town, a lot different than obviously Western and London, Ontario. But what was that like when you first did move away? How homesick were you? Were you thinking about what your friends were doing and
Dwayne, I was so homesick, so homesick. I really lucked out though in some regards, because Cornwall, for anyone who doesn't know, is about an hour away from Montreal, an hour away from Ottawa, and right on the border to New York State. So I have a ton of family in Montreal who I got to see quite a bit just over the year that I was there. I got to see them a lot. And they actually had at a campground in Chateauguay, New York, a little like trailer thing. Yeah. So I got to, door to door, an hour from my apartment to their trailer in the summer. So whenever I would have some time and they were like, come down and see us, I'm like, okay, away I go. So having those individuals who I love and know really well, having them around was fantastic. Yeah. I would say that just persevering and getting used to the uncomfortable. That's what we were saying before. It's like, it's okay that you don't really like this right now. That's okay. It's going to teach you some things. And it absolutely did. That job was the best thing I could have done coming out of school, because it was like a crash course in journalism, a crash course in living on my own. Yeah. And I made friends that I am still in touch with to this day. I saw them last weekend. We got together in Brantford, where one of the girls lives now with her husband. And, I was very lucky. They took me under their wing. And I will say that if you give people a chance to engage with you, you're going to have great interactions. And that's what Cornwall was for me. Very warm. People were very kind and welcoming, and especially that group of friends. And they taught me a lot. And I learned a lot from being there, and just having the chance to work in a small market. You got to do everything. So I got to report, I got to anchor, and just have a lot of hands-on experiences that I wouldn't have otherwise had. And it made me prepared to come back to London when an opening kind of came up at 980. There was a spot that I could transfer into, and away I came back to London. Yeah. So it teaches you resiliency when you have to rely on yourself more so than you would have before. Then you have to think about things and problem solve a little bit better, right? Yeah. So, and that's important. It teaches you about yourself. I remember once there was a very large bug in my room, and I had to like trap it. And I talk with my mom a lot in general, even though I live in London. But like when I lived there, I also talked with her a lot, and I was on the phone with her, and I was like, this bug is insane, and I hate this. It was probably within the first like month that I lived there. Yeah.
Perfect timing.
Oh, just fantastic.
Put you over the edge.
Oh yeah. Just meltdown. And she's like, well, just remember, like, I really loved when I lived on my own. I was like, that's great, Mom, but I don't love it right now. But it shows you, like, she was trying to teach me a lesson that this too shall pass. You are going to enjoy this. It just takes getting used to. And she was absolutely right. So, yeah.
Now, did you have any points in those first month or those first couple of weeks where you were all close to just shutting it down and coming home?
Oh, well, I would say that the opportunity nearly happened, and it wasn't because of my own doing. So it was weird, because I was there, and within the first, I started in June. And probably within the first 3 months or so that summer, there were rumors that our station was going dark.
Oh, no way.
And I thought, well, this was a little experiment. I'll just go back to London. Actually, I applied for a gig up in Yellowknife when I was, and I thought that would be cool. Like if I'm already away, I might as well just stay away, right? Yep. And just learn somewhere else. So what ended up happening was our station did go dark. They changed our newsroom into an online property instead, where we did the on-air news for 2 other FM stations in our cluster. Same company, same office, same everything. But we just didn't have an on-air signal anymore. And I thought, okay, this is their plan. They're going to get rid of me. I'm newest person, like last one in, first one out sort of thing, right? No, they let go other people, and they kept me because I could. Yeah, they just chose to keep me. So, and I
now, do you think that they kept you because you could do a lot of different things?
I think that
or that you were really cheap?
I think it was probably a combination of things. My friend, who the person that I saw this weekend, actually, she was one of the people that they let go at the time. Okay. And so she now is not in journalism anymore. She works for CNIB and she's fantastic at her job. And as she was when she was reporting, but she was not an anchor. And I guess for their purposes and the way they were stacking up who they had left and who could do what they wanted, I guess, more at that time was someone who would be anchoring more so, where our other team member would be doing more of the reporting out in the field. Gotcha, so just in those numbers, they figured she was much more the reporter than the anchor, and I was more the anchor than the reporter at that time. And they probably thought we can teach her more of the reporting stuff as it goes along.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So, So they kept me there. And I at the moment, I was like, but my plan was to go and it didn't happen, but thank God it didn't happen. Right. That's kind of, as we were saying before, things happen for a reason. And, far be it from me to question the universe and its plans about how things roll out and why things happen the way they do. But in this case, it was the right thing. It worked out.
Well, and I think sometimes, I'm sure when you look back on that year, on how much you grew and how much that experience probably help mold you into more of who you are and who you kind of became after that. I know when I left to play junior, it was the same thing. I was, not depressed, but just thinking about my buddies, thinking about what they're doing. This sucks. I have no friends here. And it's a hard thing, but a lot of people go through it. And when you realize that, I had a good support system as you did with my parents, and my parents would never let me come home. Like it was, you've decided to do this, you're doing it, you're sticking it out, you'll be fine. And they were right. And I look back on those experiences, I'm like, man, thank God. Cause I got to, live in a different city, meet new people, meet new friends. And it was you look back on that and man, that really helped shape who I am, or,
absolutely.
And it also helps you, I think, deal with other stuff that come up later on in life where you're like, oh, it's not a big deal. I can do that, That's right. It's like, okay, you hearken back to those experiences and you're like, okay, I remember this. Okay. I'm not going to do that again. Like, we're just going to jump over that lesson, learned it. Let's go to what worked this time. No, exactly.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Quick little story about how my mom is. So my mom's like very, I get some characteristics. Sometimes I can be a bit hard and a bit harsh and a bit to the point, but I was playing hockey at school. I was down at university and we had decided, my girlfriend at the time got a job in Toronto with Molson, obviously a good beer company, and it was a good job. So her and another friend of ours, another girl from Sudbury, were going to move to Toronto. We got a 2-bedroom apartment. We were all going to live there, but the rent was split 3 ways. Yeah. I was the third person, so fine. So I get cold feet like right before the summer comes. I'm about to drive home from school and I'm going to go to Toronto, and then I'm not going to live in Toronto. So I call my mom. I'm like, hey mom, I don't think I'm going to live in Toronto. I'm going to come home. I'm going to get a job in Sudbury and I'll just work up there for the summer. Yeah. And my mom's like, no, you're not coming home. Like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean I'm not coming home? She's like, no, you committed to, stuff to these two. You've got to, I'm like, Mom, like, I don't want to live in Toronto with these girls. She's like, doesn't matter. You committed to it. So basically, like, it wasn't not allowed, but she's like, no, you're not coming home. Yeah. And it was one of those things. It was like one of the best things I ever did. It was awesome. We had a blast in the summer. Again, met a bunch of friends. It was great, and learned to live in Toronto, which wasn't cheap, but you kind of figured it out. Yeah. And it was a great experience. And I thank my mom for that, because had she been a little bit more lenient, a little bit easier, she's like, oh yeah, come home, honey. I haven't seen you all year. This will be great. You're away all season, and be awesome to have you home for the summer. Yeah. Like, no, you're not coming home. No. Sweet. Way to go, mom. In Toronto, Mom? Yeah. All right. Thanks. So yeah, but it was like, and I take some of those lessons that I learned from my parents and my kids are young, but still trying to be not hard, but just, no, you've committed to this, you're doing this. And, and I think it's important.
That's massively important. And like, this is not, I just feel like in life now, the nature of how our society works, we have a lot of choices, and people often will go for an easier route or leave themselves open to make a choice later on. They'll push the envelope in terms of even RSVPing to something or online dating or whatever. Sure. You have so many options these days, a click of a button, a swipe here and there, that we don't necessarily always value how our choices or lack thereof impact other people. And so to be firm, to stand by your commitment, stand by your word, no matter what it's for, that's really important. So it's a great lesson from your mom. It's a lesson that I've learned from both my parents. If you say you're going to do something, you better do it. So it's important. I feel like that's a lesson that a lot of kids need to learn, and adults too. So,
definitely. I think we're the worst sometimes, right? Yeah. And the problem with it is that we got to help our young kids get through this stuff. And if we don't know how to do it, then how do we teach our young kids, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's funny though, because I think I was terrible at like, for instance, RSVPing to weddings. And you go through that time in your life where all your buddies are getting married. So I get like 8 weddings this summer.
3 this summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So same idea, but I was terrible at RSVPing back. Like I'd get, my buddy's fiance like text me like, are you coming? Or yeah, I'm coming for sure. You got to send it in, but you don't realize until you go through it. And I like, man, like, and calling all these people back. I'm so sorry. I didn't, but you feel bad. Cause like, I never got it. I didn't, whatever. I'm coming. Like, no, I need that note so I can, dictate how many dinners I need and all this stuff. Yeah. But until you like get it and you mature a little bit, a lot of us go through that and do the same, repeat the same mistakes all the time until you actually like, okay, wait a second. I totally messed that up.
Well, like good for you though, for like learning the lesson and then being like, yo, sorry about that.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm like still great at it. I try. I really do
life
try.
Happens.
But
life happens. It's like, it is what it is. And I feel like, again, as long as people are genuine and there's real feeling and connection behind whatever, or if later on they say to you, hey, I'm really sorry about that. Often that erases 99% of the aggro that you felt, right? So,
definitely. Yeah. No, definitely. So what's in store for Jess Brady moving forward? Like, kind of what was your, I know it's been almost a decade with 980 and obviously doing a good job with them and stuff, but things are ever changing and obviously evolving and stuff like that. But where do you see yourself in 3-5 years as far as what would you love to be doing? If I had a magic, or you had a magic wand, you could just swing it and.
Interesting. I would still be in London because London for me is really home.
Yeah.
And like, that's where all of my family is, like really my parents, we're kind of like 3 musketeers in a way, it's the 3 of us.
Yeah.
And all of my really close friends are, they've had their kids and this is where they are. So I don't want to miss out on anything like that. So London is where it's at. As long as I'm still able to engage with people in any shape or form, then that makes me happy. Using my skills to help others. If I'm in broadcasting, fantastic. That would be great. I would love to still be doing that.
Yep.
The news is always one of my loves in doing that. But if there's a chance for more talk opportunities, if that were to come about, that would be fantastic. It's just a different set of skills. Like you're still using your basic talents and your basic understanding of broadcasting. It's just in a different medium and in a little bit. Yeah. So if I'm able to do that, that would be great. I think it wouldn't be too big of a change over 3 to 5 years if all things go well. Yeah. That would be nice. Cool. Yeah.
So you don't want to be locked in a broom closet anywhere on a computer doing reporting.
No, thank you.
You got to be around people.
Yeah. It makes it more fun. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm really lucky that on the shift that I'm on, it can be a grind, as there are a lot of jobs out there that are like that, depending on your hours, shift work. That's because I work very early in the morning.
Well, you do the morning show. So for people who don't know, like you're up at probably 3:34.
Yeah, about that. Yeah, generally speaking.
That sucks.
Yeah, it's not fun to wake up in the middle of the night.
Never sunny out ever.
No, when you leave it is, which is really nice. Yeah, but it's actually if the sun's coming up and you're going to work, there's a problem.
Yeah.
Which makes me nervous because the sun, like you start to see it getting lighter in the distance a lot earlier in the summertime.
Sure.
So if I'm ever a little bit behind, which is frequent, I like look over, I'm like, why is the sun up? Like, why is it there? So I like boot it downtown. But yeah, so the mornings are a bit tricky. And when you work by yourself in the mornings, it's really hard. And at first in Cornwall, I was by myself when my job was right before the station went dark and all that jazz happened. But I have a fantastic team of people that I work with every day in that newsroom. And it's a great time. Like
cool.
Once you walk through the door and you kind of shake off the sleepiness and you have a couple of sips of coffee, it's a lot better.
Yeah.
And like we joke around and have a great time. So the people make the difference.
That's huge. That's huge. That's what I say too. Like a lot of times people in hockey be like, oh, you got such a great job. And I love my job. Don't get me wrong. But there's days like any job that it sucks.
Yeah.
But I do love the people I work with. And it's fun to come to the office and talk hockey or talk what happened on the weekend or what you did last night. And I think that's a really, really big piece of it. And I think for individuals too, is being a good part of that mix as well. Not being grumpy all the time or negative all the time or always 100%. Talking about the bad stuff that's going on, and being a good teammate as far as, work teammate. Cause I think it's huge. And that's one thing that keeps me coming back every day and really enjoying what I do for sure, so.
Yeah, we're like a little family there. And I feel like a lot of workplaces are like that. When you're a tight with your coworkers and everything. And yeah, it's very much like that. We all know a lot about each other's lives and
which is good or
histories.
bad.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. There's a lot of, as anybody can attest, right? Yeah. Like one of my colleagues, Craig Needles, it's like both of his kids, I've held them the days that they were born, right? Cool. So it's neat that we have those types of life moments, all of us together for like good and bad, you know? So it's neat. And our strength is our people, are our people, I should say. No, the strength is the people. Yeah. Because we're the ones that are making that machine run. Right. And if you have people who aren't committed to it, well, then you're not going to have the best product that you can have. So as long as your people are happy and committed and they understand how things are supposed to work, you're going to be okay. For sure. No matter what happens. But yeah, that's the biggest thing. Have a good team, have everybody be connected and united as much as possible.
Oh, that's great, man. Well, seeing that you're already almost on like 12 hours of uptime right now, and it's only like early afternoon. No, I really want to thank you for coming by. And it's really cool insight on kind of the whole media and obviously radio and stuff like that, which is really cool. So, but thanks again for taking the time to come out.
Thank you.
That was awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thanks so much.